And that was something my husband and I, like, we had friction about when we first got married. I think he had said to me something like, you can't just go off and do those things like that. Like, you're married now. And I was like, and so we had to sit down and talk about it.
Hmm.
What's more important? For us to strictly align ourselves within these narrow parameters that somebody somewhere that ain't got shit to do with us created,
Hmm.
or for us to have a household that lives in harmony, that thrives in harmony, and maybe we're just kind of rewriting the rules for ourselves a little bit.
I'm gonna text my husband and be like, "Oh, can you make a little bit more coffee when you get a chance?" It's not you, it's me. I woke up super early.
Really?
It's like storm here, and we just finished the renovation. We did an addition, so we have a new. We call it the North Wing. It's not a wing. It's just a bedroom, a closet, and a bathroom, and we just call it a wing for fun. And we have these beautiful skylights in, but the rain was like,
Yeah. Oh, wow.
which wasn't terrible, but like it was just enough right at the edge of like when it's almost time for you to wake up, like when you wake up an hour earlier, so it's not enough time for you to like go back to sleep.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm just gonna stay up, and I like woke Nor July up for school and like woke my husband up, and now 6 hours later, I'm like, it's kind of time for a nap. It's hitting me.
I get it. I totally get it.
For coffee.
Well, I hope
Well,
your coffee. Thank you for being here. It
absolutely.
honestly, I feel like I don't know the last time I saw you, maybe like 10 years ago, it feels like.
I haven't seen anybody. Yeah, no, girl, I've been in these streets, but not seeing people. I haven't seen a lot of people in several months just because I've been working. But yeah, no, it's great to see you too. It's been a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. So how are you doing today? Other than
Great. Like other than yeah, just waking up early, just lifing. Like as we were, just trying to figure out AV, I'm like making a brain dump of like all the stuff I need to do before the next 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks travel for
yeah.
work that I have. And so I'm like, okay, I have all these things I need to kind of pre-pack, pre-plan. I'll be in like kind of two different climates within the next 2 weeks. So I have to like pack stuff for that.
Yeah.
And then getting my kit ready. And sometime in between there, celebrating mine and my husband's 13th anniversary, wedding anniversary, and hanging out with my kids, which is just, it was always cool, but it just gets more and more fun as they get older.
That's so awesome. I love that for you. You know,
Thank you.
that's like a lot of what I wanted to talk to you about today. Literally everything you just said.
Yes, girl, in these streets, I am exhausted, but it's so much fun while I relish opportunities that allow me to, go to set. I don't know if you can hear that, but my husband's grinding coffee. He did not even have to. I was like, whoever's done first can do it. And I just heard him like,
Yeah.
that's my baby. That's my baby. And I love him. But, just crediting my partner, my husband, he's a huge reason of why I'm able to do this work and not feel and still have some spoons left to like hang out with my kids and see friends and just like be together. And so people are always like, how do you do it with kids? And I'm like, you have to have a partner. Now, you don't have to have a partner. Like, you could totally do this by yourself. Like, I was a single mom before my husband and I got married, and I was well on my way and trying to like make all of this, my career happen. But, when we got married and we had another child and he really saw me trying to make this career work in a place where it's just not what I do, just is not a part of like the cultural landscape here. We don't have really a huge infrastructure for commercial, like, commercial production and a lot of like fashion stuff. People say it's fashion because they're shooting clothes, but like, you know what I mean when I say that, like stuff that is put in museums after the
Yeah.
fact. You know what I mean? And while those jobs don't pay a ton of money, they fulfill me in a really creative way that we both made a decision. Like, it's an investment in my, like, how do you say, in my enrichment as an artist, because at the end of the day, I'm an artist. Hi guys, my name is Latia Curtis. I'm a makeup artist based in Greenville, South Carolina. Should have started with that. Ronni and I knew each other before this, so I jumped right in like we were acquainted, but Just at the end of the day, I'm a makeup artist. And so in order for me to find the most fulfillment in my work, continue to be inspired, and even have opportunities to bring what I learned from other markets back into Greenville, into the work that I end up doing here, it requires me to be able to have these opportunities to go work on teams, to go work backstage at Fashion Week, to go assist other artists with maybe jobs that don't pay like cash money, like huge dividends in that, but the value I get out of it as an artist, as a creative, learning to see another side of the business is so invaluable into my experience. And it's a big privilege to be able to do that, to say, I can turn down this work to be able to go take this work that doesn't pay as much. And it's all very strategic. Like I think about it pretty, like we think about it really thoroughly. I don't just go take, jobs like that on the whim. And I only take a few a quarter, but that's been a huge part of my success, is just having a partner in life that's like, your job is to get ready for your job. Your job is not to sit here and meal prep and make meals for the family, because I can cook. I can do that. I can take the kid to the math tutoring. I can do the things. Your job when you're at work is to be fully at work, so that when you come home, I have the expectation of when I'm home, I am home. I'm not at work.
Right.
So his support and the support of my children and family and friends, like, really allow me to, like, when I'm up in New York, I get to be at work. When I'm home, I get to be at home. And, being like a small business owner, because that's what I tell people that I coach, is that, like, you have to start thinking about yourself. You are a business on legs. You're a small business on legs. And so you need to start thinking strategically in that way. But we also know that becoming a small business owner means that, like, there's nobody there to answer emails on Sunday afternoon if there's something urgent to reply to. If I'm in the middle of, like, negotiating a job, they need to reply really quickly. So, like, having space and understanding from my family, my husband, for me to say, like, hey, can I just step out for 5 minutes and just, like, wrap this up? Or just, I'm cool to tell the person, like, hey, I'm at birthday dinner with my family right now. These are my terms. If you have any questions, just give me a couple of hours and I'll reply to you later. I mean, he is a huge part of how I'm able to, like, do this capacity as I do. And I'm so grateful for him for that.
Absolutely. And I love it so much, because I love how open and vocal you are about your love for your husband. And yeah. Oh my God, I love that. Like, literally, you just shout it from the rooftops. And I'm like, that's so beautiful. And yeah. So I'm going to take it back a little bit, because you did take it back, but also, hi, Latia. So you
come over here like, my man, thank you to my man. And I know he's somewhere saying, like, my wife, thank you to my wife. Because it's such a mutual respect and admiration for each other.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I love it so much. So, I mean, we're probably going to come back to that, definitely, but you've already given us such a good, I mean, literally, I think interview's over. You just, like, so much insight into, like, all of these different things that I really wanted to talk to you about today. But what I really wanted to do, having you here, I think you are just an amazing person, period. And and for a show called A Life Differently, I just feel like you really are a great example of someone who really is living life outside of the quote unquote norm, the status quo. I feel like you've really built this unique life for yourself, which, I mean, you literally just told us about it, and that is very much a unique life. So I want to give you the opportunity to that was a really great introduction as it was, but to kind of go back and give you the opportunity to say, like, who is Latia? Tell us a little bit more about Latia and the work that you do.
Yeah, so I'm Latia Curtis. I'm a makeup artist, hairstylist, session hairstylist based in Greenville, South Carolina. People have called me a human Swiss Army knife, a jack of all, Jane of all trades, which I used to be like, no, don't do that. Like, I'm really just an artiste. But as I've gotten older, I've really leaned into that perception that people have of me, that I can do everything, because I kind of can. I have no shame in that. I think people would say that before in a way of, like, she's kind of all over the place. But what they didn't see was, like, I have, like, a Renaissance woman, if you will. Like, I have a lot of interest in lots of different things. I like wearing many hats. And it's really important to me to do all of those things, like, 110%. Like, if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to do it with excellence. And so when people were like, oh, she kind of does a little bit of everything, they would say it with that kind of like, yeah, she just kind of doesn't stay in her lane. And I got to thinking, like, but who made the lanes?
Yeah, exactly.
Who made you the boss? Who made you the boss? It's that I can't do everything. Like, going back, I was a single mom. So there was a time where doing lots of different things was a means of survival. There was a time when I went to school and I dropped my oldest child off Savannah to school in the morning. I went to class at Greenville Tech. I went to open a salon that I worked at. I worked front desk. And then I would go pick my child up from school, took them home, met the babysitter there, took a shower, ate a sandwich at the same time. Like would be in the shower with one hand washing my butt, other hand, like that's the only time I'm going to eat that day. Yeah. Trying to like sitting my child like right outside the bathroom door so that we can have some sort of like semblance of togetherness while trying to make it work. Sometimes the baby would go to the bar with me and like wash dishes in the back until her dad came pick her up, and then I would work at the bank during the week, and then work at the bar on the weekend. And I was a personal assistant to a businessman and who owned several businesses, but also owned a funeral home. So I was helping filing like life insurance claims and da-da-da-da-da. So people would say those things like, she's kind of like doing a little bit of everything though. Like she doesn't really have a path. Whereas in my mind, like I always had a path that just my path then was to survive. And when I decided I wanted to be a makeup artist, it was like, how can I do that within the circumstances that I have right now? So if that's getting a job working at a makeup counter, if it's looking for somebody to assist, if it's just watching YouTube tutorials, reading books, studying magazines, and just sitting and thinking about the intersections of like culture, beauty, politics, which is one of my specialties. It's one of my lifelong loves, and I'll talk about it all day. I take ownership of that because what that said to me was that they are living so much within these like narrow parameters of what a person is supposed to be and what a person is supposed to do. And none of their parameters are going to pay my bills, going to allow me to survive. They're not going to foster me. They're not going to grow. They're not going to pour into me. They're not going to help grow me. All they're doing is limiting the beliefs that I have of myself. And so I'm like, yeah, no, I do a little bit of everything. I own a production company. I still have that production company. And while I don't produce anymore, I still utilize those skills when I go to set. And so now when I'm art directing, which is something I do for like commercial jobs and stuff, and it's just like a thing that these companies were like, oh, wow, you basically are doing an art directing portion of this shoot. Yeah. You're designing the makeup, you're designing the hairstyle, you're designing the wardrobe, you're making the pulls, you're assembling the team, you are working in close collaboration with the DP, the creative director, and the director on how this product needs to look and present the story that we're trying to tell for commercial. So I'm like, well, yeah, I'm an art director too. How about that? So while I don't wear all the hats at the same time on every job, being able to have those different lanes that I had a toe in or I stepped in or I worked in, and just knowing like myself, Latia, I don't do anything halfway. In fact, I'm working on that now, not like my 100%. My 50% is a lot of other people's 100%. So it's okay for me to do 50 to 75%, it's okay for me to give myself grace, and I'm working on that. I just found that being able to do lots of different things, touch lots of different people, see and hear lots of different perspectives from different backgrounds and mediums, it does nothing but inform and benefit me in the most wonderful, brilliant ways. And one of the ways I'm able to do that is through my work, through my political advocacy volunteering, through raising my children, through, just in communicating with my husband. And thus we are able to create a life that doesn't really look like other people's lives, but it's the life that works for us. It's the lifestyle that works for us in our household. And as a result of us being really truthful and authentic and real about what we want to do, what we want to explore, how we raise our children, how we, even our house, we have a giant pride flag outside and we gonna keep it out there. Right. Because we take so much pride in who we are as people and what our values are. We don't have any fear of showing that. Those values inform how we live. And I think that in those values and the support and encouragement to just explore things that fulfill you and make you happy, that also can generate an income, allow us to break the status quo. And that was something my husband and I, we had friction about when we first got married. I think he had said to me something like, you can't just go off and do those things like that. Like, you're married now. And I was like, and so if you guys are just listening and you can't see, the face that I am making. And so we had to sit down and talk about it. Mm-hmm. What's more important? For us to strictly align ourselves within these narrow parameters that somebody somewhere that ain't got shit to do with us created, or for us to have a household that lives in harmony, that thrives in harmony, and maybe we're just kind of rewriting the rules for ourselves a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to the imagination of a Black woman, where I'm like, anything is possible because I have had to make anything possible to survive. So to me, I'm like, So what if like I didn't finish college, I went 3 times. It just wasn't for me. I am making great money and I'm doing what makes me happy. So what if, my husband went to college and a master's degree in one thing, but then he pivoted. And so he's still in tech, but he's in a completely different field. It's like that kind of encouragement where it's like, no, babe, if that's it, that interests you, security interests you, I really think that's what you can pursue. And if we are in a position as a household and as a couple for you to have to kind of like take a step back, start over, get certifications, and then work your way up to be the position that he's in now, then that's what we're going to do as a family. Doesn't matter that it's not a straight trajectory. The point is that we're going to get there. It don't matter how we get there. We're going to get there.
Exactly. Oh man, Latia, thank you. Because even though I've known you for I don't even know how long, I didn't know any of this stuff about you, and I just pointed out like this having to have that conversation,
and it's scary because this is my husband. We're talking about like challenges between, I was going to say not to get political, but you know what? Politics is going to do us. We say we don't want to get political. Baby, it's doing us right now. And so I think like having those difficult conversations within a relationship where people are confronting the biases that they never thought were going to impact their relationship. No man ever thinks that when he gets into a relationship or a marriage with a woman that he's misogynistic, that he has homophobic tendencies, da-da-da-da-da. No man is ever going to think that about the woman that he loves. But you really do see it come out when you start to have friction like that. And so we have a choice. And I tell my children and everybody that you have choices. Our choice is, do we want to confront this and like really do the hard work to figure out how this kind of thinking is negatively impacting like our household, our relationship, how our children, our girl children see our relationship? Or do we just want to be like, fuck all of these like really stupid standards that somebody else created. We're going to do what makes sense for us and our family and our household. And I know not a lot of people are even open to even that. And I, again, just going back to like how grateful I am that I have someone that I married who going into that marriage, I hoped and thought in my heart, felt in my heart that this person is going to be open enough to other ideals and things and have the wherewithal to sit in that discomfort when he checks me or I check him and we're like, oh, was that a little like waxist? And you can push back on me. And I'm like, you're right. Thank you so much for checking me on that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think like allowing space to trip up a little bit and catching the other person without judgment, I think also helps a lot. And again, just not subscribing to like just really rigid gender roles, I think helps a lot too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that you mentioned, this concept of having choice, knowing that you have choice. I'm going to tie it back in a little bit to the work that you do. So being a hair and makeup artist, like at what point did you realize that was what you wanted to do and that it was something that you could actually do for work?
I love this question because I tell people this and I'm like, I always said like, I'm not a woo-woo person. Like I'm a Capricorn. It's like Excel spreadsheets. I love numbers because numbers don't lie. They can't be misinterpreted. Even though like I'm not great at math, but like Excel's and Google Sheets has just fostered this like love of formulas and calculations and totals for me. I really feel like this job was going to find me no matter how much I tried to get away from it.
Mm-hmm.
I love literature. I love reading. I was a European history minor. I love history. And I'm also like a theater kid. I loved performing and singing, but I didn't really enjoy being on the stage. I loved being more stage adjacent. So while I'm like very friendly and I can be really outgoing, I have like the worst legitimate diagnosed stage fright, like debilitating stage fright. Yes. I went to school for vocal performance and when you go to school to perform, to be a classical singer, like you need to love performing. You need to really like fight for the stage. And I just did not love it, the stage and the attention enough to fight for it. So I was kind of lost when I was in college. Like I don't love performing. I love to sing. I love to learn about singing. I love to learn about history, the history of songs. I love to learn about the progression of music and culture and all those things and art and how art informs culture and culture moves politics and that cycle. But I hated performing. So I was like, what can I do to continue to tell these stories, to continue to tell a story? But number one, be able to do it on my own. So I wouldn't be reliant on the happenings of a production, which irony, commercial work is reliant upon the happenings of production. If no one's shooting a commercial, then I'm not working. But I wanted something that would allow me to tell stories in a way that you could see who the character was or who the person was very quickly. I think the research is like 8 seconds. You have 8 seconds to like grab a passive like viewer, scroller, consumer to grab their attention. And I really love the challenge of how do I take these words on a paper and aesthetically design a character so that the moment they step on the stage before they open their mouth, you can get a sense of who this person is. And I've found that that is something they do in fashion. They do it in commercial. They do it in, you could see any print campaign, billboards, whatever. Those are designed to be able to tell a story without having to use like sound. So I was just reading, like looking at fashion catalogs. My dad was a man's man, and he got catalogs to FHM, Maxim Magazine, Field and Stream, Car Race, Auto Racer. We didn't have a car. He ain't never golfed, but he don't fish. But for some reason we got those magazines, and I didn't have anything else to do. So I would just read them all day. So I got such great insight into, number one, like that kind of whole concept of like sex selling in the 90s, late 90s, 2000s. Yep. Learning about that, learning about Field and Stream and cars and sports. Oddly enough, some of my biggest and most regular clients are race cars teams.
Really?
Outdoor, I do a lot of outdoorsy wear type shoots or like, yeah, hiking materials and stuff. I have clients that are like golf brands. And so it's like, I literally had no interest in pursuing those fields as a hobby. These opportunities I had as a youth where I'm just like, well, I ain't got shit else to read, so I'm going to read these. Now I get onto these sets and they're like, oh, we need this thing and we're looking for this thing and da-da-da-da-da. And I already know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I know what they're referencing, because my job when I'm coming to work with a brand is not to get them to meet me where I am communication-wise. It's for me to meet them where they are, because I'm in service to them. Mm-hmm. And so, that's an example of how like, oh, no, this job was going to find me.
Yes. Yeah.
And I said, I want to be a makeup artist, but there has to be more than just working at the Dillard's counter, which where I grew up, Dillard's was like the big store. We didn't have a MAC counter in Spartanburg County. We just had the Estee Lauder, the Lancome, and the Clinique. And everybody went to Clinique when they turned 12 or 13 to get on their 3-step. And they were doing makeup with Q-tips and cotton balls. Well, guess what happened during COVID? People were freaking out. We didn't know how the disease was transmitted. We didn't know how you spread it from person to person. And so people were still shooting, trying to take all these precautions. And so that's when I was like, okay, well, until I know exactly how this is transmitted, I'm going to do what the Clinique girls did. I'm going to pick up the product. They call it ghosting. Okay. Different from now ghosting. But you take a cotton ball, you put a cotton, like a Kleenex over it, and you twist it and make it look like a little ghost, and like you dip it in product. And so I would have like little ghosts in my hand and using that as my palette.
Yeah.
Right. This is like how many 20-something years later where I'm like, oh my God, I remember this experience I had. I would tell people like, you remember when they used to do makeup with cotton balls at Clinique? And they'd be like, girl, no, that was the dumbest thing ever. But it was like such an impactful moment on me as a person that I just remember that, because I have this identity of like cleanliness and sanitation and cleaning and da-da-da-da-da. So when all these people were like freaking out about like, oh my God, I'm a makeup artist, but I don't know how to da-da-da-da-da, I already had those skills.
Right.
I already had those, historical reading, European history, going deeper into that European history and learning about the geopolitical connections of that, learning about like the Italians going into Algeria and how that worked, and learning how like the Romans came all the way over into London. As far as into London, a lot of people don't realize they came. You can still see Roman roads in the UK. Learning about all of those intersections, inform the work that I do. So when, again, a client is making a reference to something historical, I know what they mean, or I at least know enough to say, okay, do you mean the actual historical reference? Do you want a stylized version of it? Or do you have a completely different version in mind? Which of these three? I'm going to do whatever you want me to do, but I just need to know what it is. And so, yeah, all of those little experiences, being raised by Black women, that's like my favorite one. People are like, you know this. And like, because I had the great privilege of being raised by Black women.
Yeah.
So this brown lipstick, this brown liner, clear gloss thing you did, girl, I was like, they did not make brown lip liner for us back in the day. So we were using eyeliner from the Bilo.
Right.
and that lip oil that's trending right now. I remember at the hair store, it was $1. It came in a little glass vial with a roller ball, and it was nothing but lip. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Oil. It smelled like strawberry
Thingies in it.
Yes. And that's like out now. Everybody's like, it's trending. It's the hot new product. And I'm like, baby, this been in the hair store since forever.
Right.
Clients on to sleeping in satin bonnets. When they've like fried their hair, there's a lot of breakage, or they have like sew-ins in. I'm like, oh no, girl, you got to go to the Boom Boom Beauty Supply. I'm going to get you like a satin bonnet, a satin pillowcase to help with this breakage. And they're just like, what? This is a revelation. And I'm like, no, it's just, which is revelatory. But like, it's one of those like gifts, I think that like no matter how much I went to school to be a vocal performance major, I thought I was going to be a classical singer. Then after that, I went back to school. I said, I'm going to be an accountant. Then after that, I went back and I said, okay, well, I'm going to be a history teacher. And I ended up doing none of those things because every single stop person human interaction that has made an impression on me along the way is like, it directly informs my work as a makeup and hair artist. So it found me. That's the long answer of saying that it really did find me.
Yeah, no, seriously, it really did. And I love, are you a manifesting generator? Are you in the human design at all?
I have no idea what that is.
I was like, I feel like you are. Okay. It's like, I always have a hard time describing it, but it's like, it's one of like those personality things, like the Enneagram and stuff like that. But, it takes your birth chart and it kind of tells you your quote unquote type. And I feel like you're a manifesting generator, maybe a generator, but anyways, usually manifesting generators, I'm one. They're multi-passionate. They're uber multi-passionate. And they literally just like do a thing and then they move on. They do a thing and move on. And it usually all culminates into this one, not like end piece, but just who you are in this moment. And that's exactly, I love that.
Yeah, it's such a like, and I know not everybody has these like moments in their life that will define them or have multiple moments in their life to define them. But sometimes I feel like it's because they're not open to it. Like even growing up in like abject poverty and growing up in like, with a parent that just wasn't present for a multitude of reasons, I had to go out and find like even little things like how to act, how to have manners. I had to find that. And I found it in the library. Yeah. I found it through reading. And so that's where my love of literature stemmed from, is reading Goofus and Gallant from Highlights magazine. And so fast forward years later, and I'm executive producing a training video for Samsung. And they're like, how do we do this in a way that's going to be really engaging to trainees coming in to work at the call center? And I was like, oh my God, Goofus and Gallant. You have to make it really obvious.
Right.
What is okay and what is not okay. And then when we add a comical lean to it, it's going to open it up. It's going to make it more engaging. But it's also going to make it less scary for the people who did not realize coming in that they didn't have these soft skills.
Right.
Like you have to train soft skills into people because we don't talk on the phone like we used to anymore. Mm-hmm. We don't call someone's house and say, hello, may I speak to such and such? You answer the phone. The person you intend to contact is the person answering the phone. So we don't even have that skill anymore. And so an awareness of that, of understanding what it's like to come from those communities. And people are like, don't you know how to talk on the phone? And it's like, no, we didn't grow up with a phone. We were so poor, we didn't have a phone. So no, I needed a job. Okay. Yeah. And when you said you were going to train me, I thought you was going to train me on this. Having that perspective so that I can go in and be like, oh my God, Goofus and Gallant. That's what we need. We need to teach people blatantly, like the way you might talk at home and engage at home with your friends and your family isn't the way that you engage with customers when they're calling with an issue.
Right.
This is how we handle that.
Right.
So, but because I didn't have that kind of stability growing up, I feel like there was a part of me that was always looking for stability somewhere. And for me, the constant place that you could always go and have a home is the library.
Yeah.
The school.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that so much. So you really talked about, obviously your work in the makeup world, the beauty world, production world, and also touching on, of course, your experiences being raised by a Black woman. I feel like you know what I'm going to ask. But I guess what I want to ask is your work in makeup, production, on sets, all of these things where you really are working on these creations, these stories that are out in front of people. I want to talk about, diversity and inclusion. And I think a lot of times people think that diversity is just the people who are on those billboards, but also how important it is to have those people behind the scenes as well. Like, can you talk about
It's platinum.
yeah, what is something you wish people understood more about that? I mean, you can talk about people in front of the camera, behind the camera, but what do you wish people understood more about? Just simply that diversity and inclusion in those spaces.
Okay, so I have so many wonderful examples, personal examples, examples that I've heard from other friends about this. And I think the first thing is like, in 2020, 2021, when everyone was listening and learning, air quotes, there was a huge push to have people from diverse backgrounds in front of the camera.
Right.
But I realized, particularly here in the Southeast, and I think I can have a unique view because I work often up north just as much as I work down south. And I'll speak particularly to the South. People think that diversity in front of the camera ends at having like a Black person or Hispanic person, a Black woman. And when they do, the Black woman must look this way. Hispanic people must look this way. I think they forget about diversity in gender identity, which is super important and valuable. I think they forget about diversity and ability. I have yet to work with a person who uses a wheelchair. And I'm over here like, now, if they're just looking cute, if they're talking about a chicken sandwich and we're building something, half of their body is going to be, covered by a counter or something. Why can't we use somebody in a wheelchair? I don't understand that. 2020, 2021, when a lot of these brands were like, oh my God, we need to find Black people. Of course, they were like, we'll call Latia. She's like the only Black person we know. And I used that to, not my advantage in that like I took from it, but I used that as an opportunity. I could come in all day and be like, y'all should have been doing this from the jump and da-da-da-da-da. But to me, I'm like, this is an opportunity for me because I have the capacity and the wherewithal and the knowledge to build a bridge and to educate these people, these brands, these agencies, these producers on how and why y'all should have been doing this in the first place, not because, the populace has suddenly become aware of the existence of Black and other diverse communities, but because, like, we live in America and your consumer base has evolved. The only people that have access to discretionary funds are no longer just white people of a certain class. They are Black people across all classes. They are Hispanic families and Latina families across all families. They're Asian families across all income levels that are now a part of your consumer base. So you would honestly be doing yourself a huge disservice if you are not celebrating what your consumer base looks like. I've run into issues. So this is when I got into casting, when people were like, can you help us find Black people? And I'm like, the first thing you're not going to do is get me to do labor for free. This is a job. It is a casting director. That is the title I have now. This is what you're going to pay me for.
Period.
And right. And so I started building relationships with agencies in the Southeast because there were not huge budgets to bring people in from New York, LA, Chicago, Miami. We wanted to work with local regional talent. During COVID, people really aren't trying to travel that much. So now that I have created this bridge with the production companies or the ad agencies. I'm now reaching out to local agencies and I'm like, okay, we need talent that looks like this. I want this many, this many, this many. And they'll say, we really just don't have that large of a pool of African-American or Black talent to pull from. And I'm like, okay, well, that's your fault as an agency because you are not paying attention to the growing consumer base and the base of the clients that you serve. But it's okay. I'm here to fix it. So that's when I started placing Black talent with agencies. So now we have this situation here where the agency is now more aware. I've educated them a little bit. I've given Black talent who I think is talented, promising, has a great look. I've been able to give them an opportunity that they wouldn't have had otherwise because I'm the person that's making that connection. Yeah. I get to educate this ad agency on like, no, it's not political to put Black people in your ad. It's the reality of the world that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this fear that y'all have of doing this. If you put a Black person in your ad and someone says, well, I'm not going to go there anymore because they're woke. Okay, babe, then don't come.
Right.
Because don't come. Because not all money is good money. But also at the same time, brands are not people. Brands don't have the same kind of like integrity and moral strength of character. We've seen that. We've seen the brands that have benefited from saying, like, no, this is who we are. We celebrate diversity because, again, we want our employees to reflect the base of consumers that come into this establishment. And if we want to make more money, we want more people to come in. Mm-hmm. To me, that makes so much sense. It's almost like your bias is blinding you to the opportunities
Right.
You would rather be racist and broke than woke and paid. I'm confused. I'm confused. But I digress. That I would hope, and I have seen on some of the sets that I've been on here in the Southeast, some of them have not changed. Some of them try to change a little bit and they've reverted back. But some of them, even if it's just one, if one producer, one ad agency, one talent modeling agency goes forward after I've interacted with them, and they've just opened their minds to be like, oh, I didn't realize I had this unconscious bias here blocking these opportunities that I would have to grow my own business as an agent or as an ad agency, or open myself up to other opportunities to tell more stories for more brands. I think that's really important. But because I don't work directly for those people, I'm more of a freelance. I don't get to be in the room all the time, so I don't get to see those changes sustain themselves. But I'm seeing more Black producers, which is great. I am seeing more queer producers, which is great, which like in the Southeast, people will be on the down low, which that's their personal choice. I just feel like it's my responsibility to, whenever I'm on a set, just to make sure that like when you're with me, you can be who you are.
Yeah.
Because that's how we tell the best stories. That's how we do our best work. That's how we add our valuable perspectives to this storytelling. And again, that's just going to yield a better product deliverable to the client. And then that's going to yield more opportunities. More opportunities mean more money. And I'm still over here sitting like, y'all really are racist and broke. You're racist, you're broken spirit, and you're broken money.
Right.
And you're probably broken relationships too, because I can't imagine that any of the relationships they have are very fruitful if that's the kind of energy they carry around. But the importance of diversity behind the camera, we say below the line, above the lines, like your director, your executive producer, the people cutting the check, below the line, the people like me, the crew. It's really important in terms of like, well, I'll use myself as an example. I'm going to do a job for a major national retailer, and they have to fly me from Greenville, South Carolina, up into the Midwest to Wisconsin. Wait, yeah, that's where I'm going, Wisconsin. Why? Is there no one in Chicago? Is there no one in New York?
Right.
There's no one right there?
Yeah.
Because there's not. Because when it comes to doing textured hair, like, do I sit in the salon and I do textured hair like all day? No, I'm a session stylist. So people come to me with their hair ready to style, and I style it for camera. They go home, they take it out when we wrap. So I'm not cutting, coloring, or anything. But as far as just like styling hair, there is a proficiency that is expected when you get onto set. And so when you have not grown up in environments where you've had to care for lots of different types of textured hair, you come into a place where you're working with talent with textured hair, and all of a sudden you're just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Which is weird to me, because I'm like, but baby, you're a hairstylist, which means that you would at least be proficient in taking care of lots of, I don't expect perfection, but you would at least have an awareness of what to do. And they don't. And so because of that, and because while I didn't start out doing session hair, I said, if I want to work, I'm going to learn how to do hair. And then if I'm going to do hair, learn how to do hair, I need to learn how to do all the hairs. Because again, the talent base that I serve is diverse. And even if it's not, I'm a hairstylist. I at least need to know. Like, I'm going to give myself that title. And so besides the technical aspect of like, no, if a talent comes, you need to style their hair in a way that's going to continue to tell the story that you're being hired to tell aesthetically. It's also like a matter of just like, pardon my French, but fucking humanity. I could not imagine. Actually, I can't imagine. It has happened to me where I've come to do a job and someone's like, you're good. Like, you're fine. And they're willing to let me go out looking stupid because of their own deficit, which as a result compromises the quality of the entire project. So not only do I fucking look dumb, you look dumb, we all look dumb, and nobody's going to work in this town again. Like, who does that benefit? It goes back to this, like, really, you're really going to let your bias play you like that?
Right.
Like, you're really going to let your bias play you like that? Okay. Choices. Life is about choices, and that's the choice you've made. Where you've made that choice, I've seen there's a deficit in this industry, and I'm going to take it upon myself to figure out how to solve that problem. Yeah. And which thus opens doors for me to have opportunities, to go to places that I have never thought that I would ever be, to be inside of rooms that I remember reading about when I was living in the housing projects at 13 years old and got no central AC and got no food in the cupboard, and just me looking for a way to just like mentally escape. And saying, like, seeing these works on the runway and seeing this beauty and seeing the storytelling, and, you know, each brand has their woman they design for, and being in that room with that designer. You know, it's afforded me the most wonderful relationships, the most beautiful friendships, and the most wonderful community. And again, these people, their bias is going to play them. Because I'm like, look at what I've gained.
Right, right.
By just honoring people, you know, celebrating people, not treating someone like their hair texture is a hindrance to my job. No, girl, this is my job. Or their skin tone, the depth of their skin tone is a problem. No, it's not a problem. And listen, if I got it wrong, I'm going to sit here until I get it right. Because that is what the job has required of me, number one. Number two, which is not number two in order, but just second point, is like you're a human here to do a job, and I'm here to help tell that story. I need to honor that.
Yeah.
So I remain confused, truly confused when I sit here sometimes and I still see the errors being made. I still see the lack of care. And then I see now what we all see is this really, it's kind of gross, this really gross pushback against DE&I, wokeness. Like, of course I want to be woke. The opposite of woke is asleep. I want to be asleep. Got FOMO.
Right.
I miss everything.
Right.
No, so I'm gonna be woke. Right. I'm gonna say diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging because you exist, you belong. That's it. You don't have to justify your presence to me because you're living, you're breathing, you belong. And if I have any control over the situation, if I have any choices or power in the situation, I'm gonna make sure that you not only belong, but you feel celebrated.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's awesome. I mean, and I totally get it. Like, I agree. Like, why would you not be willing to just make people feel like they belong? Like, simply.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's simple too, because I don't do anything extraordinary. At least I don't think.
Yeah.
I just talk to everyone. I greet everyone. I take care of my talent.
Yeah.
And it's this, oh my gosh, my hair mentor, Camille Friend, she was the department head for Black Panther, Captain America, Civil War, Dreamgirls.
Yeah.
But I took one of her classes years and years and years ago. Or I think it was the first like away time I went away from home after Nora July was born.
Yeah.
And we were like so broke. We just had a baby. I'm self-employed. Now I get to stay in like a hotel or I'll get my own Airbnb. But like we were so broke. I asked my husband to ask a friend of his, it was like his friend's brother-in-law and sister, like, hey, can I stay at your house in Atlanta? I know y'all don't know me like that, but like, this is such a big opportunity. Like, I was so scared and they could have said no. They were so generous to let me stay there, but went to that class and she said that, oh my God, I will never forget. She said when she gets onto a set, the first thing she asks herself is, how can she be of service? How can I be of service to the talent, to the story, to the people on my team, the people I'm responsible to, and the people I'm responsible for? How can I be of service? And so that's just that is just a core value. And it's in our home too. We take care of each other. We love to take care of each other and like be of service to each other. We love to be of service to our friends and of service to our community because it just goes that much further in building a community and building that trust. And it just shows that you care. So it's nothing abnormal from how I like function day to day. I will say I learned a lot of that care and love from my husband. He's the most caring, loving, most adorable person ever. So I learned a lot of that from him because I have a tendency to like, I'm like a snowball. Like I get down the hill and like, sure, I'm growing and I'm gaining momentum. But at some point, if I don't slow down, baby, I'm going to spin out. It's about to be an avalanche. And he is the one that's like, let's stop, smell the roses. Like he just moves a little bit slower and a little bit kinder with things. And, I just learned so much from him in terms of like being of service to others. But yeah, it's really just like being of service. I don't know. I sit and I think about that a lot. A lot of things I feel like I can find like a reasonable answer to, but that is one where I'm just like, what do you mean you don't have any people of color here?
Yeah.
I don't understand. We're filming in Atlanta. You couldn't find people of
how do you have ain't no way. Ain't no way.
Like we're filming in Atlanta and you had to fly people in Atlanta?
Right.
So bizarre to me. So that one I still think about a lot. I'll sit in bed and just think about it. Just like wake up in the middle of the night and just be like, you mean to tell me that they still can't find? They still, but those are not my problems to solve.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely not. So, I mean, Man, thank you, Latia. Like just everything you shared. I do want to touch, I'm kind of go back a little bit to, you just mentioned like your relationship with your husband. And I think that honestly, I had questions, but I feel like you answered all of them. But one of the things that I would love to ask you is that if there's anyone listening to this who feels like that kind of love, like that kind of relationship, that kind of partnership, and I love that you said partner, because for me, that is such an important word, like for what I'm looking for. For anyone who feels like that kind of thing just isn't possible for them, even after hearing your story, like I don't know, what's something you could say to them? Like, what's something encouraging?
My gosh, because I remember dating and stuff and being like, I guess this is it. I guess this is as good as it's gonna get.
Yeah.
And then I met my husband, and like we have been through it, and I'm just every day like I wake up and I'm like, looks like we made it. Like I will scream it to him from across the house because we've come such a long way in our relationship, but also just like personally and as parents. I mean, it will find you. I think that you just have to be uncompromising on the character of the person that you're with. Observe, and my observations could be totally wrong, but I just with my mom groups and just other stuff is that sometimes these people just ain't got good character. And I know there might be somebody listening who's like, that could be for girls too. Yes, of course it could be for girls too, but I don't date girls. And so I'm not going to speak to that. And there's always one that's like, well, not all men. And I'm like, well, enough men to where like you let your homeboys get away with talking disparagingly about their wives in front of you. And you don't say nothing. How about that? So not all men, but you're just like them. Or like, your homeboy jokes about like something awful he might have done to women back in the day, and you just sit there and you're like, well, I ain't say nothing, but that was kind of messed up. Right. So I think the first thing is like being uncompromising about finding someone of good character. When Jason and I were dating, I remember we went to Big Lots and I was just, la 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 la, just looking out the window thinking about something. And all of a sudden the car stopped and I was like, what's going on? He got out of the car and he saw these older folks like they had like mulch bags of mulch or something. And he just got out and just went over. And he wasn't even like, hey, can I help you? And hoping they say no so he can get back in the car, but he can look like a cool guy. He was just like, hey, let me help. Gets back in the car. And I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how many people drove by them and was like, somebody should probably help them. He was the only one that he didn't even have to think about it. He was just like, oh, they need help. I'm going to help them.
Yeah.
And that to me, I'm like, that's somebody like of strong, like moral character that I know that I can trust him. I know that if something were to happen to myself or somebody I loved, if he's there and he can help, he will, or at least he'll try. And it was just little things like that. Or I remember, he might get a little embarrassed if I say this, but I remember one time, like, we were having our little sleepover parties, where we wasn't like sleeping together, but we were sleeping together. Because I was like, no, I really like you. Like, I kind of want to wait. And of course he was like, yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea. So that right there, I should have been like, oh, wow, he really is different. But I remember we were just like laying in bed talking one day. And I like, to me, again, as somebody who social justice, I hate that word because it's become such like a thing because I'm like, okay, so you mean tell me like there is some big term for like just treating my neighbor like they're my neighbor and not an adversary. Okay. Right. But homophobia was like a deal breaker for me. We're like, if you don't get down with the gays and the theys, then we can't get down.
Yeah.
Because while I myself identify as like a straight woman, I have people in my friend group who are gay. I work with people who are queer. And at that point, we didn't have any children together yet. But for all we know, what if my children grow up to be queer? Like, I don't even want this. Also, like, somebody's sexual orientation really ain't got shit to do with me. So the only reason I spend so much time talking about it is because there are people who are openly in objection to it. And I'm like, well, that's stupid. Of course I'm going to say something.
Yeah.
So I asked him, I was like, so what are your thoughts on gay marriage? Because it hadn't been federally passed yet at that point. And he said, well, I mean, I don't see why they can't be okay with a civil union. And I said, now listen. And he said it very kindly. And I think, that was like the line of thinking with a lot of like just cis het men at the time who didn't necessarily have a problem with gay people, but we didn't have the word ally back then. Like that was not a term we had when we were dating. And so I just asked him, the way he said it was so like, oh yeah, it's totally fine. But like, can you be okay with civil unions? And I was like, now hold up. Somebody could have said that about us because I'm Black and you're white. And what if we wanted to get married? And they said, no, you can't get legally married. You should just be fine with a civil union. Like, would you be okay with that? And he was like, this is the thing that I just love about this man. He said, I hadn't really thought about it like that before. And so he thought about it. He didn't immediately just like, blah, 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 blah. You women are always da, 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 da. He was just like, huh, I didn't really think about it like that before. And I was like, right, you wouldn't because you're a straight man and you haven't had to face that kind of adversity before. But I would not exist if someone told my parents that like, oh, you can have a civil union, but you can't like get married. Like I probably wouldn't have even been able to get into the country because I was born overseas. And so it was things like that where it's like, even when we had a difference of opinion, and now he's like, I don't want to say he's on my side. He's on the side of like humanity.
Right.
Where he's like, yes, no, like this man, when the pride flag starts looking a little rattered, he's the one that goes to like order the new pride flag from the queer owned business. And he's like, I just want you to know, I made sure this was a queer owned or Black owned business that I ordered this from. And we're going to put it outside right now. And if anybody's got a problem with it, they come talk to me. They don't have to talk to you because you do too much labor in the first place. And I was like, damn, Jason hurt because just blowjob real quick.
You deserve it.
I don't cook, I don't clean, but I can tell you how I got that ring. I'm kidding, but like a little bit, but like not really, because there really is nothing sexier than a man who is right, who is good. I've never seen him say or do anything ugly because I just don't. It's a choice that he makes. You know, we all have choices. Anytime somebody pisses me off, I'm like, you know, I could really tell that bitch about herself and then drag her for filth on the internet, but I make a choice not to. I'm not naive. It is just a choice every day where I'm like, I am going to be a better self today than I was yesterday. And I feel like Jason is one of those people who, and I don't want to make him sound like Jesus because like we all make mistakes. He really truly does tap dance upon my nerve in the most loving, adorable way. I think just like surrounding yourself with good human, I think is so important. Also, I wasn't looking for Jason when we found each other. I had just gotten out of a horrible, like 10-month-long relationship. I literally just broke up with that dude maybe 2 days before. And I'll never forget that guy told me, after all of the shenanigans, I finally broke up with him because he spent the night with a lady friend and they slept in the same bed. And I was like, that's weird.
Right.
It's weird.
Right.
And he's like, we didn't do anything. And I'm like, well, sure. But like, that would definitely not fly if I were to do that. He was like, well, of course not, because women are different. And I'm like, what do you mean women are different? You just slept next to a woman. What are you talking about? Basically, what it boils down to is he spent a lot more time convincing me that I was crazy instead of just saying like, yeah, that was really inappropriate. But he told me when I broke up with him, he said, I don't understand why you're breaking up with me. I'm a good man. I don't beat you. And I never cheated on you. And I just like, something about that, I was like, oh my God, that's the bar. That is the bar that I allowed for myself. And I used to joke with my friends, like when I was a single girl and I was in these streets, I was like, ooh, as long as he can vote, he ain't got no criminal record, and he got a job, we good.
Yeah.
But that's really what he was. He didn't have a criminal record. He had a job and he didn't beat me. Those are his metrics of what it takes to be a good man and a good person. And I just refuse. I'm like, you know what? Nope, this is not it. Jason Curtis walked into my life maybe 3 days later. And when I met him, like we hit it off. The moment I saw that man, I was like, he is so cute. He's so cute. So cute. And we got to talking and he didn't even ask for my number. It was his friend that was like, hey, we should probably exchange numbers in case we like get lost or something later. And so we finally did. But I asked Jason, I was very transparent. I was like, listen, I just broke up with somebody like 3 days ago. Like, I haven't even had time to like clean out my house. And I also did this thing when I was single that like, whenever I got out of a longish relationship, I would like completely clean my underwear drawer. So I haven't even had time to like throw my drawers out, clean.
Yeah.
And like the sheets weren't dirty, but like, I was like, I just need to clean my house of this person's presence. I think Jason, we joke about this now, but he thought at the time I meant like figuratively. I was like, no, like I needed to clean my house. And I said, hey, I just think you're really great, but I just broke up with somebody like 3 days ago, and I just need like a few days just to get my house, like clean my house out from this, like clean my drawers, whatever. And he said, first of all, he called me to ask me out. He did not text me. Yeah. Secondly, when I said, hey, I just need a little bit of that, he said, okay, I completely understand. He didn't say, but, or like, I could do better. He didn't try to get me to like overrule that boundary that I made for myself. He just said, okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then 3 days later, this man called me and said, I would love to take you to lunch. And I said to myself, you can take me to lunch and you can take these drawers because you got to just playing. But then because of my thinking, I was like, oh no, we should wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to mess this up.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's coming. You just have to be open to it and I tell my kids this, make good choices. So make good choices about the people that you have in your circle. And that could even just be like acquaintances or friends. If these are the type of people that are so easily willing to talk shit about their friends in front of you, baby, they probably talking shit about you too.
Right.
And so not to say you need to cut people off, but like, you know, a little distance is okay. I think we're in this mindset, especially in this society, where everything has to be super binary, right? You either are 100% or you aren't. So you either are somebody's best friend and they're your homegirl, or you don't feel it.
Right.
And I feel like, and I learned this through therapy too, because again, Latia is somebody who does everything 100%. Learning how to temper that, where it's like, she can be a friend. She can be the friend that we go to coffee and we kiki every once in a while. She can be a work friend. He can be a work friend, whatever. But as far as the people that like I bring into my home, the people that I let into my life, that I might just send what I call a podcast, which is like a 2-minute long, just like, hey, I was thinking about this thing and I just want to give you insight to this thing. Cause like my true friends are the one that are like, okay, Latia sent a 2-minute podcast. I'm gonna listen to that when I get off of work later. And then we're going to like talk about it later. Seeking like just creating distance from those people. Cause they're probably still on the journey. They might grow too.
Yeah.
But you can still be around and see their growth and support and cheer for them. Just creating a little bit of distance, because I don't think we realize how much like other people's negativity really impacts us. And again, I'm not a woo-woo person, but when I surrounded myself with people that constantly needed problems being solved, and so I've always had friends around me because I'm a great problem solver, and I'm a good listener, and I'm the friend that's like, oh girl, you need help with this? I'm gonna drop what I'm doing right now because I don't want to do it anyway, and they come and help you, right? But then when I needed that kind of reciprocity, I could not find these people anywhere. They were always too busy. They can pick up the phone. They didn't have the thing, which is fine. Totally fine. Like, I'm not going to put that on them. It's not their job to be my therapist. But there was a lack of reciprocity there. And I realized that like chasing all of those relationships really took me away from like investing in myself, investing in the relationship with myself, and then being open to sweet, kind humans. So keep yourself open, keep yourself good. If that means going to church for you, I'm not a church girl, but if that means going to church, great. If that means joining a book club, also great. But for me, what it meant was learning how to really just enjoy spending time with myself. Yeah, when I did that, it made people scary, and it caused some friction with my husband and I too, because he was like, wait, all of a sudden, like, you want to go do things alone, which he interpreted as, which means you don't want to do those things with me. And like through couples counseling together, couples therapy together, we discovered that, you know, because I am just somebody who's always in movement, having to sit in a place for too long really does kind of like cause me a little bit of distress. So the way for me to deal with that is to go on a walk by myself or go to a movie by myself. This work travel that I have to do by myself, like, it's helpful to me because I can just move freely. Jason has learned that like, I'm not getting away from him. I'm just getting into myself so that when I come back home now, like I am whole. Yeah. Be for him. And he does the same thing. Like, he goes on a guys' weekend every year. I kick him out the house to go see the Marvel movie. He's outside playing basketball right now and having his own like hobbies and friendships and projects to pursue. I think we were both in this, like, when you get married, there's this like flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone. And we always took it as like we had to be this like one unit. And again, living in that like preconceived notion of what a marriage is supposed to be really crippled us as people. So when we said, oh my God, this is our marriage, this is our household, like we can make this however we want to. And when we did, we were so much happier. Find somebody who can support that, who is open to that, who is, even if they're on their journey of like learning about themselves and becoming more self-aware, like they are actively on that journey, and they might be scared to like go see a therapist or whatever, but like they're willing to be brave enough to work through that fear to do it, because that's the Bible verse says there is no fear in love. So it's like, don't be scared. Like, work through it. Go to the therapy, have the uncomfortable conversations, confront the biases that you didn't even realize you had that may negatively impact your relationship. Just find somebody who you've observed, not who you idealized in your brain to be, but like what their actions actually show. That there's somebody who's willing to be on that journey to better themselves, but also like which will in turn better your relationship.
Yeah.
That's my baby, and I love him.
And I know
That's my baby.
I'm like, to anybody listening, if you do follow Latia, or if you follow her from this point forward, you will see she openly loves her husband, and I freaking love it. And I'm just like, it's so amazing. I love it.
To leave some of the mom groups I was in, because they spent a lot of time just shitting on their husbands. Like, he doesn't know how to do anything. Okay, well, we have choices, right? We can either sit down and teach him intentionally and be like, you don't know how to clean the toilet properly. I am going to show you how to properly clean a toilet. Show him one time. He's an adult. He can practice. He can do it. Yeah. Make a choice, right? If he's like, okay, so sorry, I've been screwing it up, I'm going to let you show me, and I'm going to commit to doing it, doing my best going forward. Or are you with the person who's like, oh, that's woman's work anyway. It doesn't even matter. I don't mind stepping in piss at night. What do you mean? You have choices now. And it's true. It's like, this is a concern for, I'm like, it's a biohazard. I don't want to step in somebody else's urine. But really, it's like, it's gross. But if you bring a concern to your partner and they're like, tell me more. Okay, I agree or disagree, or this is my perspective, or this is why I do this. And you guys find a solution together. Or are you talking with a person that's like, yeah, it's not that big a deal. Get over it. Yeah. We started using this phrase called, are you agreeing out of compliance or commitment?
Yeah.
If I ask you, it's the same thing for him, because I have a tendency, he'll be like, hey, can you do this? And I'll be like, yeah. And then I'll just go about my day and forget about it.
Yeah.
So he is full ready to be like, compliance or commitment? Sometimes I like to be right, so I try not to let it get to that point. But really, it's always like, is this out of compliance or commitment? And I'll ask myself too, like, am I doing this out of compliance, or am I doing it out of commitment? Because I'm committed to this person, and I'm committed to making sure that this thing that I do for him or for our household or for anybody is done to the best of my ability. Because you can tell. You can say, I did my best, but you can tell.
You can tell. Yeah. You can.
Yes. He's the coolest dude ever. He's stolen all of my friends that in the film industry that like, I'm like, come to my house. You can stay at my house. And da-da-da-da. They meet Jason Curtis. It's over. I'm third wheel. He's going to the movies with my friends. He's going to lunch. He's like, oh, you're going to lunch with our friend Will. Da-da-da-da. I was like, your friend? My friend Will? But you can't help it. It's just a gem of a human.
I love that. I love that so much for you. And I love that. I love that for both of you. I love that for you. I love that for your kids. I love that for your whole family. It's just.
Thank you.
I
especially love it for my children. And I love it for my life. Every day I wake up and I'm just like, oh my God, I am so, I say lucky, but I know like blessing is a gift, a luck is chance. I've either been gifted this wonderful life, or I did something right along the way to like have been favored in this way. But it's also just like work. It's being intentional. It's checking myself constantly. It's, challenging myself and say, okay, am I looking at this through a bias? Am I being bullheaded? I joke, I'm a Capricorn. I like to be right. But what I really want is for things to end up the right way, the way that's fair and equitable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that, Latia.
So much, Ronni.
Yeah, of course. And like, seriously, thank you. Because I'm not always the best with words. I'm working on that. But I absolutely love everything about you. I love everything you shared. Thank you so much for being here, because you literally talked about every single thing I wanted. And I was like, no way we could talk about all this. And you're like, let me show you.
Girl, I'm long-winded. Do you want a podcast? I give you one. Be thorough. I'm always like, I want to make sure they understand what I'm trying to say. So I try to be really thorough.
No, yeah, and you absolutely are. And in a way, like, you're thorough, you're clear, you're very understandable. And also, I think the clear common thread is exactly what you said. You like to give 100%. And I'm like you said, your 100% is way more than anybody else's, and it works. So I love that because I see that in every single part of your life that you shared with us. And it's beautiful. It's just so beautiful. I can't say much more because I probably am going to cry. I'm a very emotional person, but
Thank you so much. Girl, we just out here. We just out here working.
I know. And you were just really doing your thing. And I just admire that so much. And like I said, I just appreciate you so much for saying yes and being here and making the time to do this and working through all of those tech issues. Because what the hell?
Girl, tech is gonna tech. If tech's gonna do one thing, they're like, oh, AI is gonna take over. Really? Because she can't really do her Zoom right now. So I'm not really too worried about AI taking over.
Right? She can't read and she can't draw hands. Like, what they gonna do?
Yeah. What is she gonna do?
So, Latia, a couple things before we leave. Where can listeners find you if they want to connect with you or work with you?
You can find me on the window seat in first class on plane somewhere is where you can actually find me currently. You can find me in the Sky Club. Because in the club, we're all fam, but in the Sky Club, you got to be platinum medallion or higher. Sorry. I know. I'm like, are you going to find me at seat 1A in first class? No, I'm kidding. That's a little jokey joke because I did indeed start from the bottom and now I'm here. And I hope to only go higher. So you can find me on Instagram. I have 2 Instagram accounts, one for my commercial production work and one for my wedding work. You can just search at Latia MH, and it'll show you both of them. Follow both, follow either one, whatever floats your boat. And really, like, you can find me around Greenville. When I'm home, I try to be here. I am a proud member of the Board of Planned Parenthood Votes South Atlantic. So we cover North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. So you can find me like doing work and trying to like encourage people to support candidates that support reproductive freedom across these 3 states, across the country, but particularly these 3 states. I mean, I was at the State House yesterday.
No. And
listening to,
but I was like, I felt like you shared so much, and I know we could literally like talk so much about it, but hey, go ahead, share whatever you want.
So one of the things about these bills is they have like H.87 something something. So they have these like technical names that, they use to keep track of the bills, but we know them by their names. So like the anti-abortion, full abortion ban or the anti-DE&I bill. I didn't get there in time to hear testimony for the full anti-abortion ban, but basically what they're trying to do in the state currently is pass the law that if you pass out materials that educate on abortion, if you talk about abortion, discuss abortion in any fact, if you pay for somebody to have a procedure or facilitate a procedure performed out of state, you can be prosecuted and charged with a felony. So that would mean someone like me who is like, hey, Planned Parenthood, I support reproductive freedom, I can be put in jail and charged with a felony. I think that's a complete violation of First Amendment rights. Like, regardless of someone's like religious feelings related to it, if you're going to talk constitutionally, that is a complete and utter violation of somebody's First Amendment rights. Right. Let alone the right that someone has to self-determine their own like medical care. The second law that I heard a testimony on yesterday was basically the anti-DE&I bill that the state is trying to pass. And it's a direct copy of the executive order. I'm sorry, I hope nobody heard that. But a direct copy of the executive order basically saying that, like, organizations, schools, anywhere that receives federal funding will lose their federal funding if they use terms like gender ideology, female, male, you can use. Female, you cannot. Reproductive, equity, justice, environmental, all of those things that, like, let's be real. South Carolina needs. This is a state that made its money through agriculture, and we are trying to work our way into making our money through manufacturing. But when we talk about where these manufacturing plants are built, they're going to be built in parts of the state that do not have very much infrastructure. These places also have large swaths of communities that receive Medicaid, that receive Medicare, that are poor, and also happen to be Black. They may be Latina, they may be white. Mm-hmm. To me, that is workforce development. Because they might use the terms diversity, equity, inclusion, because that is what it is. We are opening the doors to allow people from all diverse backgrounds. This means veterans. This means people that are like, oh, I didn't get hired because of ageism. okay, well, the door is open for you now. You should not be discriminated against because of your age. If your qualifications and you are the right fit for the job, you should be able to submit for that job. So for Black folks, Latina folks, first generation people, people with disability, any sort of disabilities, women, we all benefit from these DE&I policies. And so they're looking to revoke funding for colleges, universities, schools, programs. When we saw the private school in Charleston, Ashley Hall, which has predominantly wealthy white students, because they had a Women in STEM Day that was being supported by like a federal organization in Charleston, they lost their funding. So look, now it's hitting y'all too.
Right.
You thought it was just gonna mess with us. And so it's particularly upsetting to me because in South Carolina, like we have this part of the state that's called the Corridor of Shame. So between Columbia and Charleston, so all of that like band in there where the schools are falling apart. These also used to be places that were really thriving agricultural communities. And they keep going on about that. But I'm like, baby, we ain't had agriculture since the Industrial Revolution. So like, are you trying to join us in 2025 or not? But they're over here like the South will rise again. And I'm like, we're never going to rise if we do not do it together. If we don't do it together.
Right.
So it is baffling to me to see politicians who come from that part of the state who, you know, their voting base is receiving Medicaid, live in trailer parks, who are poor. They're just the same as like the people who are Black that are poor, that are living in the housing projects. I really think what this all boils down to is that the worst thing a working class white person feels like they can be is equal to a Black person.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the revocation of these DE&I policies is just a disgusting dog whistle to try to say, oh, no, we're lots of things, but at least we're not Black and poor. They don't want the playing field equalized.
Right.
Even though it stands to benefit them. And that's where disinformation and fake news and stuff like that comes in, right? That's where just, you know what? We're just going to give them fake stats. We're just going to give them fake information because if we tell them the truth, if we tell grandma with the Trump sign in her yard, but with the oxygen sign, the no smoking because she's on oxygen and she got the wheelchair ramp, girl, you get Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
You about to lose it. What's up with your insulin, sis? But like being constantly fed that barrage of like angry media. We don't watch the news in this house. We don't keep the news on in this house. If I need information, I literally go to the South Carolina State Legislature app because we do have an app. Okay, kids, I go straight to the app. You can stream every single one of the committee meetings. You can stream all the House and Senate proceedings. You can even find your state rep and email them directly from the app. And you best believe I do. I email my rep and other people's reps if I don't like what they have to say. So that's where y'all can find me these days because we have to stay in the streets. Oh my gosh. And it's, you know what was also crazy? And I'm sorry, I will not go off on this anymore. Someone on the board asked me, they're like, Latia, how can you like do all this stuff for work and have a family and then like have social life and then like also be on the board for Planned Parenthood votes? I think that when people hear the word activist, especially now, whoa, they're like, oh, you're an activist. It has a little bit of a negative connotation. And I don't even like to call myself that. I feel like someone else has to give you that title. And so I say like advocate, but everyone has a place in the revolution. Everybody. At one point, I didn't have time to go to the state house. So what I did was I fed people. I fed volunteers. I took water to volunteers. I would take leftover snacks. We call it crafty on set. A lot of times when we wrap set, whatever crafty snacks are left over, if somebody doesn't take them home, they go in the trash. So I take them. And the next time I see like somebody like, what is it? Oh my gosh, the mutual aid org that we have here, my brain, we have a mutual aid org here, Food Not Bombs. I'll take the Food Not Bombs. There was a chapter of DSA starting here, Democratic Socialists of America. They were doing a brake light clinic. So basically you just pulled up and we changed your brake lights.
Wow.
That's it. Because we wanted to reduce the amount of police interaction. If you did not have to be stopped by police for a brake light, then we were going to make sure you didn't have to be stopped for the brake light. And so we paid for it. It came out of our pocket. So being able to like help fund that, bringing snacks from jobs, that didn't have to come out of my pocket.
Yeah.
It came, y'all was going to throw it away. I'm just bringing it. So feeding and supporting people in that way. And then as far as yesterday goes, I was walking around the state house with my friend and I was like, oh my gosh, I just feel like I'm not really doing anything. And she's like, no, but you are doing something because they need to see bodies. in these chambers. They need to see bodies in these overflow rooms. They need to see the lines of people out the door that have come to give their testimony as to why this bill is going to negatively impact their communities. And while we can think and be right in our thinking that some of these politicians, I will not call them leaders, because some of them, like with William Timms, Lindsey Graham, I will not call them leaders. Some of these politicians may have already had their mind made up in how they're going to vote along party lines, as opposed to voting what is going to be best for their districts. You still have to show your face. You still have to make it known, because now we have record, right? Now we have record that you got 350 some odd thousand, I'm exaggerating for the sake of comedy, but like 300 and something thousand emails from your constituents saying like, hey, we don't like this shit. And you ignored them. We have that, because now I'm going back to choices. Now we have a choice. You know, your person that you've always voted for, whether it's culturally, generational, your daddy voted, Republican, so you gonna vote Republican, even though it doesn't really make sense for you. You have a choice now. Are you going to look at the facts? Are you going to look and listen at the fact that you put this person in office who is blatantly disregarding any and all concern you have for national security, for your health care, for the infrastructure, the economic growth of your community, and then rights of the other people in the constituency? You've told them a numerous amount of times and other constituents that you're not with that policy, but are you going to vote for them again? So now you have a choice to make within yourself, and you have to look at yourself in the mirror every day, and you have to look at your children and you look at your family, and you have to say to them and to yourself, like, oh yeah, principles and values be damned. I'm just going to continue to vote for the person that's going to inflict harm upon this household. And if that is the choice that you make, I'm going to pray for you. That has to really suck. That's to really suck. But I can go to sleep at night knowing that even if things aren't working out to our benefit collectively, I am doing the very best that I can that day to move the needle in the right direction. And so
you can live with your choices.
I can live with my choices. If I were to die tomorrow, which God willing I don't, but if I were to die tomorrow, I can die knowing that, my queer child came home to a house that was proud of her, because we put the flag outside and we have no shame and no fear of it. We have gotten hate called. My husband got hate called last week. Somebody found where we live, found his number, called him. But you know what they didn't do? They didn't call Latia Curtis, because they knew. Because y'all forget, I may be liberal, but I am from the south side of Spartanburg. Don't let the smile fool you. Like, I am tiny, but I am scrappy. And so I just want to encourage everybody. I know I've gone off like, this is where you can find me. I want you guys to find yourself. I want you to find yourselves. I want you to find your voice in all of this. For all the people that are like, well, I don't really do politics. Baby, politics is going to do you. Mm-hmm. So now you have a choice. I did not get up to testify yesterday. I was there merely to observe. But like, to the people that did, they were so brave in doing so, and courageous in doing so. And just like, I don't have the words to say how much it thrilled me to see the diversity of the people coming to speak in opposition to that horrible bill. You had like highly educated PhD candidates, white candidates. You had the president of the Columbia chapter of the NAACP. You had a white man in a suit who looks like my husband get up there and say, I don't look like somebody who would be in support of this bill, but I need you to understand the economic destruction this bill would cause to all of the nonprofits that are serving your constituency. Right. To which I argue, that's what we pay taxes for, right? So that the nonprofits don't have to do the heavy lifting, but that's another conversation for another day. So it brought me a lot of joy to see the diverse amount of people, the different types of people, the different types of abilities of people that were in the room to testify and speak, to the point where the line went all the way out the door. And that gives me a lot of hope for what is to come in the future. And I don't know what's going to happen politically in South Carolina, because we are gerrymandered AF. And our Democratic Party seems to not want to put forth excellent candidates. Mm-hmm. That's another conversation for another day. As far as the people go, things are looking promising. Find yourselves, find a way to get involved. Download the South Carolina Legislature app. You can follow, if you're going to follow anybody, like, you can follow me. But I really do think everybody should download the Legislature app and just like sit in on a committee. Find a law or a bill that just looks interesting, piques your interest, and listen to the way that these leaders talk about reproductive rights. Listen to the way these people talk about working class folks. Listen to the way that some of these leaders that we have put in office, that you guys have put on a pedestal, talk shit about you and your families. And I feel like when people just start listening a little bit more, you don't have to get it from the news. You don't have to get it from Fox News. You can get it from nowhere else. Go straight to the source.
Yeah.
And listen to the way they talk about you, and listen to the way that they hinder your access to economic growth, and that the way they hinder your access to healthcare, and just the crazy things they come up with as reasons as to why women should not be able to access reproductive care. It is baffling. You know, one county councilman told me that if I needed a pap smear, I could go to any doctor. He said, you can go to any doctor for that. I said, no, I can't. He said, yeah, you can. I said, respectfully, Stan, I'm the one with the uterus. I cannot go to an pap smear.
I cannot.
And he said, thank you for your time and hook up in my face. And I was like, that's okay. I'm about to email you. Clackety, clack, clack, clack. Took me 5 minutes.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So I encourage everybody, find your voice, download the app, do that.
Thank you. I love that. Because I didn't know anything about that either. And that's one of the other reasons why, it's one of the many reasons I love following you, because I'm not that person. I hate watching the news, and I just feel like I get overwhelmed trying to like think about it. But then like I see you, and it's like, you have my attention. I know what's going on and I understand it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like when you said you were there last night, I was like, I didn't know anything about this. Cool. Let me listen to this man talk about it. This is awesome. This is amazing. So I really love your fearlessness and all of this work. I love your passion for it. I love how vocal you are for it. So thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, if anybody has any questions on where they can go to get involved or to learn more, like I said, I'm only on the board for Planned Parenthood votes. I am not on like any sort of like, so I have no vested interest in like growing the whatever donations or whatever to the other organizations, but I do try to stay informed and aware of other organizations. And so if anybody has any questions on like, this is my particular interest, this is kind of where I want to channel all of my energy, where can I go to get involved? Like, please, please, please reach out to me and ask me, because I vividly remember in 2016 where I was like, you know what? This is some bullshit. I got to go get involved. And I couldn't find anywhere.
Yeah.
There was no central location for me to go and look and be like, okay, this is the issue that I really want to hone all of my energy into. These are the organizations that I can get in touch with to get involved, or just to have some sort of direction. When I got to the State House yesterday, I was wandering around, and I'm somebody who's like kind of politically informed. And I was just like, okay, there's a lot of protesters, but I don't know where I belong. And if somebody didn't have the same fortitude as I did, they probably would have turned around and left.
Yeah.
So I want to make it so when people come to these spaces that they feel encouraged and comfortable enough to go alone, because like there's nothing wrong with going alone, that they know how to do these things safely. I'm a volunteer street medic. So if you want to talk about being able to go to protests and doing it in a way that's safe, I'm happy to talk you through that. If you are just looking for a place to donate money because you don't have time and you want to do a little $10 donation somewhere, I'll tell you where to do it. I'll probably find one in your town. There's just a way for everybody. I've got a stack of like thank you notes that I have to like send out and sign to people who've donated to Planned Parenthood votes. Like those are little things that everybody can do. Like Nora Gillad's going to help me with these. She's going to help me sign them, because man, these are her reproductive rights too. You know what I mean? And so not being afraid of like letting my children be involved in these things and canvassing on the weekends. You know, if we don't go to the park anyway and go for a walk.
Yeah.
Just pass out some stuff while we're at it. And honestly, transparently, I work a lot on the weekends. My husband picks up those shifts for me because our whole family is involved in this in some capacity.
Yeah.
But we are not so involved that we feel like it takes over our lives.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's why people may fear getting involved, because they're like, oh my God, it's going to consume me fully. No, you could literally just show up like I did yesterday, just to listen to people and be a body in the room.
Yeah.
And that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So I got a county council meeting tonight. What is it? The second and fourth Tuesday? So it was yesterday, second and fourth Tuesday of every month from 5 to 7 at County Square. My husband actually has started going to the to our little town's city council meetings, because he's like, and see, I didn't even have to tell him to do it. He was like, well, you're so informed. I want to go be informed.
Yeah.
Like, that's right, Jason Curtis. You go be informed, baby. Yeah, because I don't want to tell you how to think. Why don't you just go see it for yourself?
Right. Exactly. I love that. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you
so welcome.
so much, Latia.
My pleasure.
So before I let you go, though, a little fun thing I like to do at the end of my interviews. Would you be open to doing a rapid fire session?
Oh my God, yes, I love rapid fire.
Yay! Okay, cool. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Great. Favorite place you've ever traveled for work?
Oh my God, how terrible. I have so many. Okay, everybody knows I love New York, right? Because I go to New York all the time. I am a city girl through and through. But I had a gig in Bar Harbor, Maine last year. And it was the most magical, wonderful time. So anywhere Maine, I've done jobs in Vermont. I'll be back in Maine later this summer. Cannot wait. It's at the end of June. We're in March. I'm already packing my looks. I'm already I'm getting so excited for this client. Anywhere in New England, which is never a place I thought I would. I never thought I would love the Adirondack Mountains or Acadia National Park. I don't hike.
Yeah.
I've never seen the stars shine the way that I have seen them shine in Maine. Oh my God.
My gosh. I wasn't thinking when you said that, I'm like, whoa, I really thought I thought it was going to be New York or something like that, but no. Okay.
Oh my God, it was just fun. The people were so nice. I didn't know blueberries were a big thing up there, but I had blueberry scones, blueberry pie. I got lobster from a lobster shack, a lobster roll. I've never seen anything. It's so beautiful up there.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Describe your personal style in 3 words.
Oh my gosh. So 14-year-old skater boy, but make it fashion. 1,000%. I'm basically wearing the same looks as I wore when I was in high school, but just more elevated.
Yeah. What's a go-to hype song you use for motivation?
What you know about me, big G-L-O and that G-L-E. She said, I don't cry no Honda. I don't cry no Rafe either. I said, I know that's right. We're not crying at all. Anything by Gloria Hallelujah Woods. Oh my God, I love her so much.
Okay. What's a beauty product you can't live without?
Sunscreen. Right now, this moment right now, even though I'm just going to be driving later. I am wearing 3 different types of sunscreen on my face right now.
Really?
You're not going to catch me slipping.
I need a recommendation because I need a sunscreen. I need a facial sunscreen.
I love them all.
Which also, Latia is amazing at recommendations, which also, if you could only suggest one place for someone to visit in New York City, where would it be?
Okay, so my love language is lists. When I retire, I want to be a tour guide, but I want to specialize in niched tours.
Yeah.
So when someone's like, what's your favorite place to go in the city? I'm like, the thing I love about New York City is which Latia do I want to be? Mm-hmm. So do I want to be studious, bookish Latia, So do I want to peruse a bookstore and just romantically touch all the spines of the books and have a coffee? Do I want to be hot gal Latia and go to Balthazar and have a really cute restaurant, a really cute look? Or do I want to be basically when I'm in New York, I think about which Sex and the City character I'm trying to be that day.
Yeah.
And I'll be doing my cute little hop across the street. No one's watching me, but I'm doing it for myself, for my inner child. So I think, you know what? The Metropolitan Museum of Art, that's my spot. I feel like there can be something for everybody there. My biggest tip to give people, because it is an enormous museum, it stretches 5 city blocks, and you would need days and days and days in there. I really encourage for people to join one of the public tours.
Okay.
That's my favorite. I love pulling up on a public tour. It is so nerdy, but it's so wonderful. They're free. They don't ask you to do an icebreaker. They don't ask your name. You literally can just slide in and just slide out if you don't love it. But they will have just the general greatest hits of the museum, but then they'll also niche down for specific things. So the tour that I just saw was basically the intersection of religion and realism in art. So how we see the pendulum swing from realism in art. And then we see, how Christianity moves, how Alexander the Great took over Constantinople, and how the art moved to something a little bit more idealistic, and then how the pendulum swings back. Such a fascinating walk through art history, anthropology. That is the kind of shit that lives rent-free in my brain. But that is and then when you're done, you go outside and you have a hot dog on the steps.
Yes.
The classic hot dog on the steps in the sunshine of the Metropolitan Museum. There was nothing more magical. I've been able to share that with Savannah and my husband. And so the next person I'm taking on a solo trip to the city is going to be Nora July. We're going to go together.
Yeah.
And we're going to go to the Met, and if you can't get a tour, I do the audio tour, but you can also listen to the audio tour on your Bloomberg Connects app, which has all the audio tours for all the major museums in the Bloomberg Connects app network. So you can listen to the audio tours of the Chicago Institute of Art, You can listen to it for like the tiniest little nichiest museums. As long as they're under the Bloomberg Connects for the audio tour program, you can listen to it remotely.
Man, that's awesome. Thank you.
You see, girl,
Wealth of knowledge.
girl, nerdy.
I have not had that experience. I haven't been to the Met. I did go to the Brooklyn Museum when I was up there because they had the Giants exhibit.
Yes.
Phenomenal. But I did.
Phenomenal.
I had food from a halal truck across the street from Rick Music Hall. So that was really awesome. And I was just sitting outside and it was so beautiful.
Yes. I just like, and I've been really blessed. I've only had like, of all the times I've been to the city, I've only been there once when it's been like just sideways raining where I've been completely drenched. Every other time I've been there, there might be a sprinkle or it's like rain that's totally like doable till you get from point A to point B. But like, I've always really had like this, I feel like the sun shines for me when I'm there because she knows I need it. She knows I need to be like outside with my people. And so there's just something. So we just got back from there this weekend. I took Jason for his birthday. There was just something, I just feel like my most self when I just am coming out of the museum. I just got some new knowledge. I just learned something new and I'm sitting on the steps in like full drenched sunshine with a hot dog. Like the chili burns the roof of my mouth and an ice cold Coca-Cola. Like it is just, and it's that much better if you can take an edible before you go in. It's the best.
That sounds good. Oh my gosh.
Girl, you gotta be floating. You gotta be floating up in the.
Love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. All right. Couple more questions. What's one small thing that Jason does that makes you feel really loved?
The thing that he does that makes me feel really loved, Jason Curtis I have never questioned how that man felt about me. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. I've never, like, I'll be like, do you love me? But it's usually after I do something really annoying. I'm like, do you still love me? Because I don't know if I would love me after that. I wouldn't like myself very much, at least. But it's the one thing that he does, but it's like the culmination of all the things that he has done is like, I have never, ever questioned how that man feels about me. And I think that's what makes him so like safe to other people is like when you're Jason's friend, like, you know, you're his friend, you know, like he's just so, he's not stingy with the affection that he shows people. And it makes me think about like, why am I so reserved in that way? Because there's an endless well, like affection never runs out. So like, what is my restraint? Why am I so fearful of like, I don't love giving, I'm not a hugger, you know, or I have to be like emotionally compelled to hug in that moment. But Jason's like always a hugger. He's always a high fiver, a hugger, a back patter, a high fiver, like an encourager. And so like, I think that's like one of the things I just love about him that makes me feel the most loved is just how free he is with how he loves others.
Beautiful. And favorite Beyonce song?
Church Girl right now. You know, I love all of Church Girl right now, but you know, I love all of Cowboy Carter. When it first dropped, I was measuring my drives with how many Cowboy Carters it took to get there. And so Charleston is like about 2 Cowboy Carters. It's like 1.75 Cowboy Carters. Yeah, because the album runtime, I want to say, is like an hour, 34 minutes. Yeah. And so some like full Charleston, if I take it to Kiowa, is definitely like about 3-ish Cowboy Carters. But to like North Charleston area where my homegirl lives, it's about 1.75, 1.85 Cowboy Carters, depending on how many times I've stopped. Charlotte, though, is just one complete Cowboy Carter if the conditions are right. Drive times with the album runtime? Like, I'm working on GNX right now with Kendrick Lamar.
Really?
Like, how many GNXs does it take for me to get from, like, when I have to go to Augusta for work today, so it's about a 2.5 hour drive. So I'm literally...
Live near Augusta.
You live near Augusta?
Yeah, I'm like 20 minutes away from Augusta.
Wait, how was that you live?
Funny. Huh?
You're in Greenville?
I'm not in Greenville anymore.
Oh, shit. Oh, wait, do you live near a Wayfair outlet?
No, there's a Wayfair outlet out here?
Girl, Wayfair is just what I need, okay? Yes, there is a Wayfair outlet there. Wealth of knowledge. I'm going to tell you exactly. It is at...
Yes. I did not know that.
Yes, girl. It is at Wayfair because we were going to do that today. It is Robert C. Daniel Jr. Highway in Augusta, Georgia. Because, you know, the Final Cut outlet, the Anthro outlet, and then she closed. Yeah. No lie, that's the only reason I took this job. Because usually, like, I have so much travel going on this week that I was not going to take a travel job this week because I have to leave Saturday morning. And then I leave again the next week for Kohl's. But when they were like, oh, it's in Augusta, I was like, all I need is a reason. All I need is a reason. Here I go.
I don't know. I was going to go to Augusta today because there is a little cheesecake place out there. It's called like Ari's Aries cheesecake, and it's black owned.
Okay.
By a woman, black woman. Delicious. I tried it like last week, and I was gonna go today and buy my friend one. They're like little mini cheesecakes, but anyways, they're delicious. So Ari's like Aries. It's spelled like
Okay, girl, I'm about the map. I'm on extra. Don't play with me. All you had to say, you said cheesecake? I was like,
Aries cheese. And she should be open to it.
And she is. She closes at 8:00. She is in Evans, Georgia.
Here we go.
And there I shall be. And there I shall be. Yes, yes. Thank you. Yeah. So Augusta this weekend, and then I'll be at the Wayfair outlet.
Okay.
Or this week, rather, today.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me know about that. Yeah, I had no idea. I'll check it out. And I hope you check out the cheesecakes, and I hope you like them.
They close at 8 too. I'm like, I have plenty of time. I have a conference call at 7.
Yeah. I just randomly ended up over there. I didn't even know it was like black owned, and I was standing like waiting on my cheesecake, and her picture popped up, and I was like,
Yes, yes. Look so much for having me. This was such a delight.
of course. Thank you so much for being here. Especially thank you for letting me keep you for all this time.
Sure.
Latia, I appreciate you so much. I love you. I'm so glad I met you. I'm so glad you're in my realm. Thank you for everything today. I really, really
Absolutely. When can I listen to this?
I think that is a great question. I'm going to let you know because I was playing around with my content calendar last night. So I will let you know for sure when you can listen to this. Okay.
Okay, wonderful. I can't wait.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Where's my button? There it is.